Okay, so this month is the NaPoWriMo, which is the 30/30 for National Poetry Month. And I've been working on a project that I'm calling Trash Life, about growing up kind of poor and redneck in the Bible Belt. And for this, it actually morphed into a piece of flash fiction. So this counts as my day. I got to thinking about rhyme and reason, and it's an idiom, and as you know in the South we love an idiom. And the rhyme and reason is something like rhyme is something that follows a pattern, and reason is something that follows logic. So something without pattern or logic is said to be without rhyme or reason. And that is, as you know, not always true. So this piece is called Vernacular. Y'all listen up now. This is Betsy Cheshire. You just can't figure it out no matter how hard you try. Too peculiar for me to wrap my head around. No rhyme or reason, chimes in Mama. None at all, says Betsy, and keeps shoving summer peas into the speckly enameled dish on the stoop. Bridie Snell is snapping the ends of wax beans and tossing them into the same stew pot she's fixing to cook them in when she walks back across the street once the trucks start kicking up dust down the way. I mean, Loretta been lonely as a pine tree in a parking lot, but oughtn't she hold off for just a spell? So far, I have stayed quiet behind the screen door, and they seem to have forgotten that I can hear them. So I hold my breath and wait. The grown-ups' talk is punctuated by the rhythmic sounds of vegetables getting ready for supper. Betsy with the sweet peas, Bridie with an apron full of wax beans, and Mama, they call her Bobby Lou, peeling clean scrubbed carrots and turnips to cut into quarters. Bless your heart, Bridie, Mama says, and shuts a piece of carrot peel in her direction. You know good and well Loretta ain't got good sense God gave a rock, and what's more, she could eat corn through a picket fence. Holding off won't do her no good. Kate never could, Betsy concurs. That last mister, seems all he did was break bad. Fly off the handle and she run like a scalded haint from that house most every Saturday night. She turns up on my porch more often than not. Didn't waste a steak though, even if it meant missing service. They laugh in the way that grown women do when something isn't actually funny, but they're glad it's not them this time. You know that laugh, right? It starts off louder than it needs to be, and then gets softer, uncomfortable-like, then just trails away like steam rolling off the top of a boiling pot. I smush myself flat, wedged tight between the backside of the door against the wall, leaning in between the crack. Mama's had to put steak on her eye, too, and she didn't waste the meat neither. Took to bed instead of church that Sunday. Well, Betsy says, that's a hard dog to keep on the porch, I suppose. I reckon it is, Mama says, her practiced hands pulling a purple and white coil of turnip peel off the root in one clean peel like a ribbon. She drops it into a bucket that I'll have to take out to empty into the compost heap after supper. I can taste a bit of sick crawl up the back of my throat and land bitter on my tongue just thinking of it. The compost heap is hot and the fumes coming off of it are thick with rot, riddled through the center with maggots when I push it around with a compost stick. Mama reminds me when I complain that chores teach character, and anyways, that stinky compost makes it so we've got food growing in our garden. Myself, she continues, I just think he's all hat and no cattle. Bridie snaps the last bean into her pot and wipes her big freckled hands down the V front of her apron, draped over the expanse of her prodigious thighs. She twists at the long brownish red braid, thick as a man's belt, that hangs slack over her shoulder. She nibbles the dry skin on her bottom lip, which seems as always chapped. Ain't none too smart neither, she says. Give him 2 nickels for a dime, he'll think he's rich. Guess that explains taking up with Loretta, Betsy laughs meanly, a splinter of jealousy pricking the uptick of her voice, matching her face, which always seems sort of pinched and hollow at the same time, a little like one of the empty pea shells heaped into the dry wicker basket she brought to set on the front steps. I don't think Betsy intends to be mean when she says it. I think she's just wishing it was her instead, because it just don't make no sense. Back in September, I got in trouble for eavesdropping when Betsy come over one night crying, and Mama caught me hiding in the hallway listening. Ever since, I've been more careful and never let on that I heard what Betsy told Mom about her mister leaving. There was steak that night, too, and no church in the morning again. Quit being ugly, Mama says, shooting the same sharp look at them that she uses on me and Sally when we get to bickering. I swear, she continues, and I wonder if she can read my mind when she says, "You're as bad as my girls sometimes." She pulls another papery spiral of scrubbed turnip skin off under the capable pressure of her thumb against the blade of the paring knife. Braga stands up, hoists a heavy pot of beans to perch on her sturdy hips like she balanced babies and laundry and all manner of baskets of vegetables. She wasn't being ugly, she says, just honest. After all, it don't make a lick of sense. She throws the braid back over her shoulders so it hangs down her spine, smack between her shoulder blades like a noose that trails off right over the witch dimples just above her butt. Mama, Bridie, and Betsy starting supper on the steps, and hen talking is a pattern, just as much as the turns they take nursing each other's shiners with cuts of steak that none of them can afford to waste skipping church. Marrying the misters who bring home the steak and dole out the shiners is a pattern too. It's a rhythm that falls flat on all their tongues, though they sing it like a nursery rhyme and keep teaching it daughter down to daughter. There's no logic to it, and what Betsy can't quite wrap her head around is how dumb old Loretta, who can eat corn through a picket fence, figured it out before them and created a new rhyme all her own, what was sending her mister out on his ass and taking up with a good old boy half her age. I suppose you're right, Mama concedes, dropping one last corkscrew of turnip skin into the bucket, joining a heap of orange curls of carrot and the brittle outer skins of an onion. The bucket, a collection of things no one can really eat but are no less useful, able to be turned to grow something better. Maybe it's me that's thinking ugly, Mama says, because there's no rhyme or reason to is why we're all still here on this porch, all of us chilling a cut of meat in the icebox, and there goes Loretta, off to church just fine. See you tomorrow, girls, Mama says, pulling herself up from the stoop. She holds out the bucket and thumps her knuckle against the door I've been hiding behind. Now take the compost on out, Gracie, Mama says. Remember what I told you about eavesdropping. Ain't polite.